Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We gotta add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the Vietnam War. The government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekly daily morning show where we bring you the latest in everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we have a lot to talk about. My goodness, so much took place over the weekend. As you will well know, Strategy bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, one of the largest acquisitions that we have seen out of Strategy in a very long time. We've also seen a final response from Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve against Donald Trump, because Jerome Powell perceives that Donald Trump and team are trying to pressure him into lowering interest rates. So today we're going to be looking at the video that Jerome Powell put out regarding that very idea. There's a lot of speculation that he put it out at a certain time to try and tank the market on purpose. So we'll kind of dig into that. We're also going to be talking about the Iranian revolution. At this point, it is no longer something that should be considered a protest. It is a full-blown revolution with millions of combatants on either side. Is Trump going to intervene in the nation state of Iran, Persia, whatever you want to call it? And if he does, what impact will that have on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? We've seen the impact that different wars have had on Bitcoin. For example, we saw when the 12-day war happened and the United States dropped bombs on the nuclear program at Fordo, Bitcoin dropped briefly below $100,000 for the first time in 60 days following that development. We also saw Bitcoin plunge into the beginning stages of its bear market following the beginning of the Russo-Ukrainian war. At the outset of that, back in late 2021, moving on into early 2022. I think that was in January, February of 22. And so what kind of impact could a potential war in Iran have on Bitcoin? Which direction could this move our portfolio? That's exactly what we're going to be discussing today. Of course, we're also going to be talking at length about short-term and long-term Bitcoin technical analysis. I'm really excited to be here. I really appreciate all of you guys for being here. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Let's read some chat. Farmer Muck is in chat. Miguel Rangel is in chat. PL Braveheart is in chat. Parabolic Surg is in chat. Bardazon is in chat. Moonmutt is in chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Really excited to be back. We did a ton of traveling over the course of the last few weeks, and we are back, and we are ready to dive right on into it. So, without much further ado, let's go ahead and give you a quick kind of an image of a lot of the different news that we're looking at. Right here, Strategy, we can see, has acquired 13,627 Bitcoin for $1.25 billion at an average price of $91,000 per Bitcoin. We also have Jerome Powell over here speaking about the perceived attack on the Fed's independence, which I am all for, to be quite honest with you. I'm not a fan of the Fed. I think it's ridiculous that an independent private entity can control the United States dollar. I've never understood that. So we'll listen to what he has to say here. It's about a 2-minute clip, so we'll just go ahead and play it here in a minute. And then we're also going to be talking a little bit about the Islamic Revolution. I'm sorry, not the Islamic Revolution, the Iranian Revolution against the Islamic regime in Iran, and what will probably end up becoming the picture of the decade. So let's do it. Let's start out over here on Bitcoin. As you can see, Bitcoin is currently trading at $92,000, and this is a phenomenal update. Very excited to see Bitcoin moving in this direction. If we jump on over to the chart, Bitcoin is basically building one gigantic smiley face. It's this beautiful smiley face that looks a little bit something like this. It's not exactly a smiley face, though. What this basically looks like is what we call a cup and handle formation. You can see the cup and you can see the handle, and generally speaking, cup and handle formations lead Bitcoin into major breakouts. And so the question now is, will Bitcoin sustain this uptrending level of support, or is Bitcoin going to fall beneath it? So let's kind of let's just do a quick run through of all of these different things, and then we'll dive into some Bitcoin technical analysis to start off with. Bitcoin right now is sitting at $92,000, market capitalization of approximately $1.8 trillion. It is up 1.26% in the last 24 hours, but down over the last 7 days. We've been basically trading sideways for the last couple of months. And that's something that I am expecting is going to end at some point relatively soon. I think at some point in the next 45 days or so, probably sooner than that in all likelihood, you're going to see a shift in Bitcoin away from this sideways action back into a trend. It is very uncommon for Bitcoin to just sit here and trade sideways for that long without something eventually taking place. And so what we've seen happen over the last, at least several years, especially since the launch of the ETFs, is you basically have these massive runs that happen almost immediately. You see the sideways action, then you see these massive runs, massive capitulations, and sideways action in between it. We haven't actually had a lot of trending markets. We've had a lot of moonshots, to be honest with you. And so the question now becomes is when are we going to see the next one and which direction is it going to be? Right. So that's really what we're looking at on Bitcoin there. Now, Ethereum is basically sideways as well, sitting at $3,200, $3,100. It's been bouncing around in a range between $3,000 and $3,200 for quite some time now. That range is probably going to also continue to play out exactly the way that we have seen until we see a major breakout on Bitcoin. And one thing I want to mention while we look at CoinMarketCap here is that this is signal. This is signal, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of these different cryptos trading sideways is a beautiful thing to behold. And the reason that I say that is because this is an excellent opportunity for us to grow as traders, as investors. It's also an excellent time for us to accumulate. If you believe in Bitcoin, a $92,000 Bitcoin is a phenomenal entry. It really is. It's a phenomenal entry because I fully believe that with what gold is doing, which we're not going to have too much of a chance to get into gold today, but I will just show you really briefly because it kind of ties in here. Gold's going absolutely bonkers. Gold and silver are moonshotting, right? With what the precious metals are doing, with the Federal Reserve seemingly, the Federal Reserve at least thinks that it's losing some of its independence. You would expect Bitcoin to moonshot in these conditions, and that is something that you are probably going to see happen at some point in the near-term future. Now, it could be in the next couple of months, it could be in the next year, but at some point you're likely going to see a pretty large movement on Bitcoin. So let's look at some of these other cryptos as well. You have XRP that's basically sideways. It's down over the last 7 days. You have Solana that's up 5% over the last 7 days. You have Dogecoin that's down 7%. Cardano's still hanging out here in the top 10. All right, so let's start off with digging into some shorter-term Bitcoin technical analysis. Then we're going to talk about Iran a little bit. Not because we're trying to get into a bunch of geopolitics here on the channel, but because I do think that it is going to have a major impact on Bitcoin should something take place. So that is where we're going to kind of come at that story. So short term, Bitcoin is in a flag. It's been flagging out under the flat level of resistance at $95,000 and the uptrending level of support right here. There's an even steeper uptrending level of support down here on the hourly chart that is forming, and this is somewhat encouraging. The fact that our uptrends are starting to ramp up and that our resistance is still flat, right? We have this uptrending level of support right here, and then we have a new uptrending level of support that's forming right here. And this is a beautiful thing because Bitcoin is breaking downtrends here. It's breaking downtrends, for example, over here. We broke this downtrend a while ago, right? And ever since we've done that, we've had this rally, a drop, and we did not fall back to as far as we started. So it is very possible that Bitcoin could be gaining some momentum here. We do have that flat level of resistance at 95. Our cup and handle formation that looks a little bit like this. It's either a cup or it's a cup and the handle, right? It's a cup and a little smaller cup for a handle, or a cup and a trading channel, a downward trading channel. Either way, both of those possibilities are playing out right now. Bitcoin is more or less building that downward trading channel. Maybe you could say it's building this other cup. If Bitcoin runs up here towards $95,000 again, I would expect it to be quite likely that it would break through it and try and return back to 100,000. In general, Bitcoin is starting to get some footing under it, and a large part of the reason for that, as we've talked about, is because we have seen the shift away from we've seen a major shift away from altcoins back into Bitcoin. We've also seen a huge shift out of equities into, not even so much out of equities, but out of cash, rather, into precious metals. There is a flight to safety that's going on right now because people are scared. They are scared of what's going to happen in Iran. They are scared of what's going to happen with the Fed. They are scared of what's going to happen geopolitically. And so what they are doing is that they are buying gold, they are buying silver because they are freaked out. But the problem with gold and silver, for any of you who have ever owned it, is that it is one of the least liquid things that you have ever seen. I mean, come on, you got to hate gold up to like 2,500 degrees to liquefy. No, I'm just kidding. To get out of your gold, you have to pay several percent in fees just to get out of it because of the spread that these gold dealers charge. It's virtually impossible to transport cross borders. It's just not as good of a long-term store of value as Bitcoin is. And that's what we've seen over time. When you look at the gold over BTC chart, or actually it should be BTC over XAU, BTC over XAU chart, what we're looking at right now is that Bitcoin is in this bear market against gold. And I welcome it. I welcome it. I love it. I love that Bitcoin is moving down on this chart right here that's losing value against gold, because as it loses value against gold, it enters into this prime real estate. I am so interested in buying Bitcoin right there. I'm so incredibly interested in buying Bitcoin on this trend line. If you don't know, this is the BTC XAU chart. This is Bitcoin over gold. Bitcoin has been on a multi-year, at this point, almost a multi-decade march higher away from where it was in the past and growing in valuation against gold. And so as gold rallies, right, we've seen gold just continue to move higher and higher and higher. As gold moves higher and Bitcoin stays low, then what that does is that causes this chart to bottom out. And I am honestly, if we're in a bear market right now, which we do have confirmation that we're in a bear market, if we're in a bear market right now, I am looking at this right here being the zone that Bitcoin is going to fall down into. And if we fall into this zone, this is where generational buys are going to take place. And we're going to fall into this zone for one of two reasons. Either one, Bitcoin's going to drop down to $60,000 to $70,000, or two, gold's going to go straight up to $6,000. One of those two is likely what is going to drive Bitcoin down into this pocket right here. And when you see Bitcoin down in this pocket, that's where you want to be, because we have spent a great deal of time over the years. Let's see if I can Bitcoin flipping gold. We've spent a great deal of time over the years. Flip.gold. That's right. That's the website we're looking for. We spent a great deal of time watching Bitcoin try to flip gold. In past, Bitcoin has reached as high as 11.4% of gold's market capitalization. Right now, it's at 5.74%. Bitcoin has lost a great deal of value against gold lately, not even because Bitcoin's lost value, but also because gold has gained in value so much. Right now, for Bitcoin to flip gold, Bitcoin would have to go to $1.6 million a coin. I welcome the massive rally that we have on gold, because I want to see this number go higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. Eventually, one day, when you see gold up at $10,000 an ounce, this flip point is going to be like $3 million a coin, which means that if Bitcoin goes to 30% of the market capitalization of gold, you're going to $1 million a coin. As gold goes higher, we see that the world is shifting away from the historical reliance on fiat currencies that we've seen over the last 60 to 70 years and back towards hard money. For any of you that have ever read Safety and Amos, if for any of you who have ever studied actual economics, unless it's from Keynes, you will understand that gold has a property that people desire, which is the ability to store value. When I interviewed Michael Saylor many years ago, we talked about the idea of like, that Bitcoin is thermodynamically sound. Gold to some degree is as well. It doesn't lose value. It doesn't radiate away value. It holds on to its value because of its scarcity. And anyone that understands scarcity understands that investing in scarce assets is basically is almost always going to work so long as the asset that you're investing in has more or less achieved network effect, right? Bitcoin has achieved network effect. Gold has achieved network effect. They are not one of, but the dominant force in their category. Bitcoin in cryptocurrencies, gold in precious metals. If I could go back 10 years and add gold to my portfolio as well as Bitcoin, I would do it. But I also do think that Bitcoin is a far superior currency to gold, because it is extremely It's massively more portable. The people that talk about Bitcoin being unportable and it doesn't transact fast enough, you don't understand, do you? Gold doesn't either. Gold sucks at transactions also. By the way, Bitcoin's 1,000 times better at transactions than gold is. I would honestly argue it's 1,000 times better at transacting than gold is. Bitcoin does not need to be as simple of a currency to use as the dollar is, which, by the way, it basically is at this point with all these layer 2 solutions. It just needs to do gold's job better than gold does its own job. And what you will end up seeing happen is that you are going to watch Bitcoin eat gold's breakfast over the next 20 years. At least the valuation of gold that is as a result of speculators storing their value in gold. If you reduce gold down to its industrial value, I don't believe that it's a $32 trillion commodity. I believe that gold is probably a $5 trillion commodity. It is a very important and albeit very rare metal in the Earth's crust. And every single one of us has gold in our laptop, in our computer. It is an important industrial metal, but it is not a $32 trillion industrial metal. It's just not. Iron is used significantly more than gold. And the iron market capitalization, whatever it is, I 100% promise you, is not larger than gold. I don't even know if you can calculate that, right? Let's see. Can you do that? I've never done this before. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, here we go. The iron metal market cap isn't a single figure, but refers to the massive global iron and steel market valued in the trillions of dollars, around $1.7 to $2.2 trillion in recent years. Let's see. How much? Here, let's use better. You know, back in my day, we Googled it. These days, we grok it. How much is all of the world's iron ore above ground worth? I'm going to estimate it's a couple $1 trillion. You do not need to go far to find iron. I have no idea what the number is. Let's find out. If you expand the broader global estimate of 200 to 250 million tons, the total value would range from $21 to $27 billion. That's incredible. I mean, you can get a ton of dry metric iron, a dry metric ton, of iron for like $100. I mean, it's not worth much. But you add every other metal. You look at the market capitalization of copper. You look at the market capitalization of even silver. Doesn't come anywhere near. The reason that gold is worth $32 trillion is because of speculation. You cannot tell me that more than 20% of that value is because of the industrial use case of gold. I understand that it's very important in semiconductors and transistors and everything. Not so much transistors, but semiconductors. I understand that it's extremely important. But the vast majority of this wealth is because people believe that gold is a superior store of value to Bitcoin. But let me tell you something. All the people that think that gold is a superior store of value to Bitcoin are dying of old age. Some things take a generation to shift on because it takes you that long to figure out that it's different. We have a Tesla now. I bought a Tesla. You press a button, the thing will drive you anywhere in the world, completely autonomously. I told my wife this morning, driving the kids to school, I said, sweetie, I will never not think that this is super cool because I grew up in the era where you actually had to drive your car. Your car didn't know how to drive itself. We have a car that literally, you press the blue button and it will drive itself. I will never not think that that's cool. My children will think it's normal because my oldest son is 5 years old, and for as far back as he can remember it, there's going to have been a self-driving car in the family. It's the same thing with gold. People that think to themselves, I want a store of wealth, they want a store of value, many times they're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. They remember a time when Bitcoin did not exist. I don't. I remember being 17 years old, and just as I was waking up to what the economy was, I came to realize Bitcoin is a store of value. The younger generation believes in Bitcoin as a store of value. The older generation believes in gold as a store of value. This figure is going to probably quintuple, and then it's all going to flow into Bitcoin. And so when we look at the short-term technical analysis on Bitcoin, I look at this box right here. This is exactly where, in the short term, I want to see Bitcoin go. So if you have not already, make sure to bookmark the chart, BTC XAU, and don't forget about it because BTC XAU is exactly the kind of chart that you're going to want to look at to see where you should invest in Bitcoin. Wait until Bitcoin is on a massive discount from gold, which, by the way, already is. It's already lost 50% of its value against gold from the all-time high, right? from all-time high, we're down 53% against gold. We drop down here, we'll be down 60%. And so we'll end up seeing a major bottom form and that position, in my opinion. Now, we need to talk about something that is probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to keep this brief. I'm going to keep this like 5 minutes. We'll probably be done with this in about 5 minutes. I've been looking at this a lot, and I'm going to be honest, my heart is breaking. My heart is breaking. Makes me want to cry. I'm a grown man. I don't care. It makes me want to cry. It breaks my heart when I see people suffering. So I'm going to be brief on this. I'm not going to impose my opinion on this. I'm going to do my best to be objective, but I do need us to talk a little bit about this picture. If you don't know what this picture is, I'm going to inform you about one of the largest humanitarian crises that has happened in this century, and that would be the revolution that is taking place in Iran. So, backstory: the Shah, the Pahlavi dynasty, I think is the way I say that, the dynasty that ruled Iran for about 100 years. They ruled a nation called Persia. Actually, it wasn't called Iran. The Ayatollahs came in and started a revolution in the late 70s, overthrew the Shah. The Shah, who was the king, had to leave. The Shah's son grew up a little bit outside of Washington, D.C., and he's been there for the last 48 years. He's the crown prince. And essentially, the Islamic Republic of Iran is a brutal regime that at this point in the last 2 weeks have killed, we don't know. There's not really any confirmed reports, but it is extremely likely that the death toll is well over 10,000. So there are protests in the streets. Women, for example, have to wear these head coverings over their head. They're dehumanized. They're literally told that they're worth less than a man, which is a horrible thing to say because women, we know, are created in the image of God as well, and they're valuable and they matter, right? And so the Iranian people, the vast majority of them, the Persian people, if you will, are tired of it. And so they have... seeing Trump's red line. Basically, Trump about 4 or 5 days ago told Iran that if you start shooting protesters, we're going to knock the hell out of you, and we're locked and loaded, ready to go, all of that. In the last few days since that has occurred, there have been millions of people in the streets demonstrating. Iran is a nation of 90 million people. It's one of the most oil-rich nations in the world, one of the most culturally rich nations in the world, of over 5,000 years of very, very, very rich culture. And they're tired of it. And so if you are not aware, there is a massive revolution going on right now. It is basically the middle of the night right there in Iran right now. And there are hundreds of thousands, millions of people on the streets fighting back. Even people that are in the Iranian regime are defecting and fighting back and choosing to rebel against the Iranian government. There have been announcements coming from Khomeini, the Ayatollah who is in charge of Iran, that essentially anyone that fights the Iranian military is a, quote, enemy of God, and certainly, but will be executed by hanging publicly within a couple of days. So that's what's going on. Like I said, I'm going to keep this like 5 minutes because it's not. I'm going to explain a little bit how it ties into Bitcoin. But the first thing I want to do is I want everybody to pray for them. Like, seriously, there is so much evil going on right now in the Middle East. By the way, the Iranian state is the single largest state sponsor of terror in the entire world. This is a known fact. This is not a conspiracy. This is the absolute truth. It's very obvious. It's a horrible. This is where my opinion comes in, but it's very much true. Horrible regime. Mass murdering. It's terrible. And so, in your time and in mine, be praying for the Iranian people, the Persian people, we should say, maybe. Because I certainly think that this has become a humanitarian crisis that is something that we should be paying attention to. Now, how is that going to impact Bitcoin? Like I said, I'm going to try and keep the politics to a minimum. I'll always generally tell you my opinion. In my opinion, my heart breaks for the people that are rising up against their government. I hope that they win. Ayatollah Khomeini is a horrible individual, and he's a murderer. So I hope he gets deposed. But again, I want to keep it kind of to. I'm going to tell you what I think. But we're going to focus on the actual charts. What do the charts say on this? Well, I want to go over some of the things that have happened recently. This little drop right here, where Bitcoin briefly dropped below $100,000, this happened on the day of, basically the last day of what was known as the 12-day war earlier this year. This is where Iran and Israel were just launching an enormous amount of armament at each other. This was the day that Donald Trump sent several several B-2 bombers to drop GBU-57 bunker busters on the nuclear enrichment facilities at Fordo that were in a subterranean complex under a mountain, blew them to smithereens, along with hundreds of other aircraft that were involved in the operation. And when the American strike took place, basically everybody said, oh my gosh, World War III is going to happen. China, Russia, they're going to attack America. They didn't. So that FUD of war starting caused a drop on the price of Bitcoin. And so that is something that we need to watch out for, is that if Donald Trump does end up doing what, frankly, I hope he does, which is launch a strike on Ayatollah Khamenei and the evil regime in charge of Iran, and if he does that, there's a very high probability that it could crash Bitcoin because people are, generally speaking, going to be freaked out that World War III is starting. Are Russia and China going to come to the defense of Iran? No, they're not going to. They're not going to do crap because they can't fight back. All they have is nuclear weapons, and I don't think Putin or President Xi Jinping, dictator Xi Jinping, are stupid enough to use them. So, no, I don't really think there's going to be any retaliation against America other than from the Iranians. And for any of you that might be concerned, the Iranians, as far as we are aware, do not have anything in their arsenal that's capable of reaching the United States. If you are in Israel, be ready to get into a bomb shelter, because there will likely be a huge amount of fire moving in the direction of Israel. In all, it's a big mess. Be praying for the safety of the Persian people. They've been under oppression for 48 years, 5 days from now. The Iranian Revolution, the Iranian dictatorship was declared, I believe it was January 17th, 1978. So 48 years will be in 5 days. So just be praying for them. That's the main thing. And also, as far as your trades are concerned, at any moment, Trump could announce, we just dropped 1 billion pounds of dynamite on Iran, and it could crash the market. So just be aware of that. Now, give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and leave this right here. It looks like I need to get my laptop charger to work a little bit better so the stream doesn't die, and then we're going to keep going. Give me just 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that, guys. Just want to make sure the stream didn't die. That'd be really not great. I feel like we're having a good time here. Let's go ahead and read some chat. We're going to read chat for the next 2 or 3 minutes. Then we're going to have a word from one of our sponsors, and we're going to jump into some Bitcoin long-term TA. Very, very excited about all of that. We're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about their Bitcoin purchase. We're going to talk about Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, and continue moving right along here. Please show your right-hand index finger pointing on camera. I have a feeling that you're going to, like, clip that or something. So I'm not. I don't know. Are you trying to make a meme? You trying to make a meme or something? Ayatollah Asahola. That's great. Jeb for president. I'd love to be president one day. Glid 690. He won't. Israel will. I think that Israel right now is waiting for coordination with the United States. I predicted Saturday that we would have struck by now. I'm surprised that we haven't. I'm really genuinely extremely surprised that Trump has not struck yet. I've been watching it, monitoring the situation. I've been watching the news. Monitoring the situation. That's the better way to put it. Monitoring the situation with the caffeine. You know what I mean? We've been monitoring the situation. Hasn't done it yet. I'm very surprised. Trump drew the line in the sand, said if you cross it, if you start shooting protesters, there's going to be hell to pay. Conservative estimates put the death toll at over 10,000. At what point has the red line been crossed, man? I don't know. I know that a lot of people very firmly disagree with me on this. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think the United States should do. I think we should intervene. I think we should overthrow the Ayatollah. And the part of the reason for that is because he's evil. America's the biggest guy in the room. If I'm the biggest guy in the room, somebody's trying to hurt somebody else, I'm going to knock your teeth out. I'm going to protect the people around me. That's just the way I act. That's just the way I am. You kill me, fine. But I'm going to go down swinging, making sure that the person that was smaller than me is getting taken care of. And also the other thing is, if the Ayatollah is overthrown, the Persian people are very much united around the Shah. It's not like they have no plan for government. The Shah's ready to step in, take power, and have massive approval ratings. They all want him back. He used to be there. Persia's been ruled by a Shah or a king or some kind of emperor for thousands of years. That's their culture. That's what they want. They're Zoroasters. They're not Muslims. They were conquered by Muslims. They don't want Islam. That's why they're burning down all the mosques, and mainstream media won't tell you that. If targeting military installations and disrupting Iranian communications and all of that would help them win their government back, I'd say do it. I mean, what's the point of being the biggest guy in the room if you can't protect people? That's up to Trump, though. I'm so glad I don't have to make that decision because Iran does have teeth, man. They've got missiles, and they will use them if they think they're going down. So, ultimately, I am not the president. And at this point in time, I'm very glad I'm not. But if I was, I'd have been dropping bombs right now. Amen. And also, I will also say this. People say, well, Jeb, what about peace? We teach this in financial sovereignty. You want financial peace, you have to go to war on chaos. You want financial sovereignty, you have to go to war on debt. You want financial sovereignty, you have to go to war on your own sin and foolishness. If you want peace, you have to go to war sometimes to get it. That's my stance. You guys are entitled to your stance. I respect whatever you think. Please respect whatever I think. But all I'm saying is that at times to create peace, you have to demand it. Sometimes you have to demand it with a gun. Somebody walks in my house, tries to hurt my family. I'm going to make war with that person so that my home can stay at peace. You understand? All right. Read a little bit more chat here. And then we're going to keep it moving. It's about time we jump into our long-term TA. Dang Debbie. You demand. Much love, Brother Jeb. Much love to you as well. Today's stream is not sponsored by Green Apple Jolly Rancher C4s. But if it was, what I would say is, these things are delicious. If anybody knows anybody that works at C4, I love your energy drinks. Hit me up. Hit me up. If you know anybody that works at C4 energy drinks, I would love to have a sponsorship with them. Speaking of sponsorships that I love to have and sponsors that I use on the daily, NordVPN is a fantastic place for you to go so that you can stay safe while you're browsing online. If you guys have not already signed up for NordVPN, you are absolutely missing out. It is extremely important that you sign up for NordVPN. I'm going to tell you exactly why. Here's exactly why. There are hackers and thieves that are trying to hurt you. They are trying to steal from you. They want your money. They want your passwords. They want your cryptocurrency. They want everything that you have. They want to steal from you. They want to sell your information, your passwords, your location, your pictures, the pictures of you and your family. They want to sell all of that to data brokers, to thieves, to crooks, to criminals that are trying to hurt you. You came to this channel because you want to be safe. You came to this channel because you want to grow. I'm going to tell you that the most important thing that you will ever do in growing is not going backwards. How easy is it for someone who is just an absolute star in the NFL? They tear an Achilles, career's over. How easy is it for an influencer like me to do a great job for 10 years, say one thing that's wrong, get canceled, nobody watches you anymore? How easy is it for you to build a cryptocurrency portfolio, spend a decade of your life building it, someone gets your data because you went on the wrong website, they sold your information, and they get enough information to hack your Coinbase and drain you, or hack into your bank account, steal your identity, open up accounts with your social security number. This kind of stuff happens. And it happens every single day. And it's a sad thing because it's extremely avoidable. It's extremely avoidable. It doesn't have to happen to you. So I highly encourage you, if you have not already, sign up for NordVPN by going to nordvpn.com/Jeb. And when you sign up, you will be getting access to the Nord suite of products. I personally recommend the Plus package because you're going to get the password manager and the breach scanner, which are phenomenal. The password manager is absolutely incredible. It's a product called NordPass. It's actually an add-on. So for an extra like $20 over 28 months, $20 over 28 months, that's less than $1 a month. For less than $1 a day, you can save a kitty. You know those ads, right? For less than $1 a month, you can get a password manager added on to it, so that you can stay organized. I use NordPass. I love NordPass. It is the best password manager on the market. I used to use Dashlane. I use NordPass now. I love NordPass. When we started working with NordPass, I'd already used NordVPN for like 10 years, but I found out about this password manager, and I now use it. I've used it for the last 2-3 years, however long we've had NordVPN as a sponsor on the channel. Highly recommend that you go to nordvpn.com/Jeb, click the big button, and then come over here and hit buy now. $105. $3.76 a month. It's 74% off for the first 28 months, and you're going to get access to all of this. Isn't staying safe while you are browsing online and protecting your thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency worth $105 over 28 months? I think it's pretty obvious that it is. Sign up for NordVPN with the link in the description box down below. Let's get back into it. I want to talk about the long-term technical analysis on Bitcoin. It's extremely important to me that we understand the long-term direction of Bitcoin and the reason why Bitcoin is moving in this direction over the long term. And the reason that that's so important for me is because as an investor, we have to retain confidence in that in which we are investing, because it is not how well Bitcoin performs that dictates how well you perform. It is a combination of how well Bitcoin performs with how well you keep hoping about what the future is going to bring. And if you do not believe in the long-term future of Bitcoin, it's very easy to get shaken out of your position. Over the years, I've had to ask myself many times, what is my job? People ask me what I do, and it's oftentimes kind of difficult to explain what I do because the layperson doesn't have any understanding of what's a YouTuber? What you teach about you read charts on Bitcoin. Okay, so what's your job? Like what value are you providing? And I've come to realize one of the things that I do on this channel that is valuable to you, and one of the reasons that you come, is that I am here to help you remember your conviction when it gets hard. It is hard to hold Bitcoin when it is down 30% and everything else is up. This is a bear market. This is not a mid-cycle correction. It's a bear market. And in the long term, it'll end up looking like a mid-cycle correction because it's not going to drop 80% like it has in the past. I'm extremely confident that that's not going to happen. But what's difficult to do is to remember that this correction is not the end of the story. It might be one chapter in the book, but the novel's not done being written. We need to remember the long term. And so as we remember the long term, I want to go over these two different news stories today, and then we'll talk about the impacts that those have in the long run. The first one's relatively simple, but impactful. Strategy has acquired 13,627 Bitcoin for $1.25 billion at $91,519 per Bitcoin. Finally, the amount that they paid for the Bitcoin actually matches the day's spot price. They're always getting terrible deals as Bitcoin's on its way down, right? It's very funny. They're getting terrible deals. And probably a part of the reason for that is, I don't know this, but I have a feeling that they're having to pay over asking price for, they're having to pay over asking price because whoever they're buying it from is, you know, they add a spread in there to make some money, right? Someone is making a lot of money. Some OTC desk. I don't know if they're buying directly from Coinbase's back behind the scenes like OTC or not, but someone's doing it, which is why they always seem like they're getting a bad deal. But in the long run, it's not going to matter. As of 1/1/2026, we hold 687,410 Bitcoin acquired for $51.8 billion at an average price of $75,353 per Bitcoin. I would not be at all surprised to see this entire bag go negative. I also would not be at all surprised to see if Strategy manages to raise money in that kind of environment to see them acquire an enormous amount of Bitcoin and actually bring their average entry down. Whether or not they'll be able to raise capital at that level is an entirely different question. We knew that a large acquisition was coming from Strategy because Strike, STRC, STRC. Let's see if we can find this here. Managed to reach up to $100, and it stayed pegged at $100 for a while. And generally speaking, what this means is that they're about to hit the ATM. They're about to hit the ATM, and they're about to go to town buying some Bitcoin. Generally, when STRC, the perpetual stretch pref hits 100, that's typically when they're going to issue some of it, drop the price, and then pay out the dividend, and then they're able to actually raise some capital. And so we had a feeling that they were going to be able to raise some capital and basically extract some value out of the investors to buy Bitcoin. And that's exactly what they've done through the preferred stock here. And so this acquisition is huge. And so this strategy looks really stupid. Like, it looks really, really dumb. It looks incredibly stupid, because what strategy has basically managed to achieve at this point in time, if you cherry pick the date, I said strike, I know, I meant to say stretch, I apologize. If you cherry pick the data, and you just look at it today, strategy has achieved like a 3% year over year yield. Not even as good as, the stock market. Not even close. Hasn't even beaten inflation. Their yield on the Bitcoin is atrocious. Many of you that say that clearly have no historical understanding whatsoever about how most financial institutions were created. The vast majority of them were created by acquiring assets over time and giving it a long, long, long time. And those assets grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And in the early stages, these different large financial institutions looked extremely stupid. They looked incredibly dumb. What they were doing made absolutely no sense. And then you give it 5, 10, 20 years and you realize the generational play. I have said for a long time, strategy is either going to become one of the largest companies on earth, or they're going to go bankrupt and trigger an entire bear market. There's really no in between. Strategy has become so large at this point that it is very similar, that they are very similar. They have a very similar story to Bitcoin. Either it blows up in the most apocalyptic, hilarious way ever, that's not funny at all because we have a lot of value in Bitcoin, or it's going to go to the moon. It's going to 0 or it's going to 100. There's not really any in between. There's not, it might trade sideways. No, it's not going to trade sideways. Strategy is going to go up violently or down violently when you give it enough time. It's not just going to sit sideways. Either it's going to be one of the greatest investments of our lifetime, or it's going to implode in a fiery inferno, and we're going to rename it from Ponzi scheme to Sailor scheme. I have met Sailor. I've talked with the guy. The guy is wicked smart. I think it's going to pull off. Now, I don't hold much strategy. I have a little bit, but not much. I hold basically completely Bitcoin and then also equities, right? But what we're seeing out of strategy is interesting because strategy actually tracks with the long-term trajectory on Bitcoin quite well. Strategy found itself in this rising wedge the same way that Bitcoin found itself in the exact same rising wedge, and it broke bearish out of it. Strategy, in a lot of senses, is actually just doing exactly what Bitcoin is doing, but it's front-running it. It's almost like strategy is telling you the future. If we compare MSTR to BTC, you're going to see that they've done a very, very similar thing. It's probably going to be virtually impossible for me to get these guys to overlay correctly, so I'll just kind of switch back and forth. Actually, we'll go up here. Go up here, put them side by side. So we'll get MSTR over here, and we'll get Bitcoin over here. If you didn't know, you can pull them up side by side like this. Make sure this is as easy to see as possible. All right, cool. This is Bitcoin. And then over here, we have strategy. And I think it's going to become quite obvious the point I'm making very quickly. Zoom out. Put them on log because they're both need to be on log. I think it's going to become pretty obvious the point I'm making here. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Do you see what I see? This is the exact same time frame, by the way. Let's put the start of the chart over here at like January. Start of the chart here over here at like January of the beginning of 2020. Let's go back to the beginning of 2020. Yeah. So these are both on the 3 daily chart. As you can see up here, they're both 3 daily chart. And they're both showing basically the exact same thing. What do you notice? What do you notice here? First of all, both of these markets have a massive symmetrical triangle pattern that's uptrending. As we know, symmetrical triangle patterns virtually always break bearish, which is why it, frankly, in hindsight, was pretty obvious that Bitcoin was going to fall out of this rising wedge. But where do we go long term? I actually genuinely believe that strategy is foretelling the future a little bit here. You can see that strategy has dropped quite a bit farther than Bitcoin has. Bitcoin has dropped off of all-time high a total of 35%. Strategy off of all-time high has dropped a total of 72%. Is Bitcoin going to go that low? I don't think so. But hear me out. If you look at these highs from the last bull market, this is basically exactly where strategy has gone. It's gone more or less to the previous bull market highs. Our last bull market high is at 68,000. The last bull market high for strategy was over here at 130. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin drop down to these levels. In the same way, now let's bring up a third panel here. I just love having 3 panels. Let's bring up a third panel over here. In the same way that if we look at BTC, XAU, I think we'll do the panel thing more often here. Look at the 3 daily chart on the panels over here, right? Just make sure these are all scaled appropriately. Right? We'll go to the weekly chart to make this a little bit easier to see since we're zoomed out. So we go to the weekly chart, go to the weekly chart. You can see them breaking down. Right? See this? Now, let's come over here and let's add gold into the mix. BTC over gold. It's a little bit hard to fit this all into 3 channels, right? You see the exact same thing happening on gold. Let's just go 1 panel real quick on gold, right? Go to BTC XAU. It's the exact same pattern. It's the exact same pattern. BTC XAU. The same exact pattern. You got the symmetrical, you got the rising wedge. I'm sorry, I said symmetrical triangle pattern, the rising wedge, and you're falling out of it. And guess what? You've also got the support right there, falling down to the bottom of that channel. On the regular time frame, you've got support down here. And the point I'm trying to make here, if we go back to the 3 panel, the point I'm trying to make here, if I can get all this lined up well, is that we are looking at Bitcoin possibly revisiting these highs right here, the last cycle highs. We're looking at MicroStrategy possibly revisiting the last cycle highs. And we're also looking at BTC XAU possibly revisiting the last cycle highs. Here we go. Now I'm finally getting these charts where you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. That's what I was going for. Now it makes sense. BTC USD, last cycle highs. MSTR over USD, last cycle highs. And last but not least, gold. Bitcoin over gold, last cycle highs. There we go. Finally completed my artwork. There we go. More panels, more money. Hear him out. Yes, Craig the Space Bum. Thank you for your patience. Let's just sit here for a second and observe. In fact, I will just go ahead and I will turn myself off for a second over here. Get myself out of the way. Oh, that's screenshot worthy, isn't it? Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. What if? What if Bitcoin did that? What if Bitcoin went there? What if that's exactly what our future was? We can only hope. I hope that this is exactly what happens on Bitcoin, is that we fall right back down to these highs. I hope that that's what happens. That would mean Bitcoin falling back down to $68,000 to $69,000. It'd mean Bitcoin over gold falling back down to 15. It would mean strategy falling back down to 130. You want to talk about capitulation? That'll capitulate a lot of people. They will lose their marbles. And all that will do will cause an overside test of previous all-time highs, which, as we know, are bullish patterns. You just have to have the faith in the market to zoom out. I have been a professional chartist for 10 years almost, 8.5 years. The reason that I do what I do is not to sit here and look at charts all day. The reason I do what I do is to figure out whether our long-term conviction makes sense or not. I'm here to tell you that I believe that it does. I believe that all three of these markets, three of the most important charts in Bitcoin, are breaking bearish out of their rising wedges, going through the necessary correction, and when they are done, it is going to be an incredible entry. Long term, Bitcoin is fine. It is completely fine, and we do not need to worry about it. You know why? Bitcoin hasn't changed. Bitcoin is the exact same asset today that it was a year ago, that it was 5 years ago, that it was 16 years ago and 9 days when it was created. Look at that, 16:9 aspect ratio. It was invented, it launched 16 years ago and 9 days ago, January 3rd, 2009, 16 years and 9 days ago. It is the exact same asset that it was when it was born. It has not changed a bit. My long-term conviction on Bitcoin has never wavered. It is a fixed asset. And so this chart is a thing of beauty. It really is. So it brings a tear to the eye. We're going to have to post that on X later. Long-term, is Bitcoin a good investment? Yes. Long-term, has Bitcoin been a good investment? Yes. It's been phenomenal. How does Strategy's purchase tie into this? It just shows you that people that have money are convicted in Bitcoin. All of the banks are starting to adopt Bitcoin. All of the major retailers, major payment processors are adopting Bitcoin. Bitcoin adoption is at a place today that we dreamed of 8 years ago when I started this channel. I have been commentating on Bitcoin nearly daily for over half of its existence. That's incredible. And I love commentating on Bitcoin because I firmly believe in it. What we have to do is we have to embrace Bitcoin's volatility. You see, here's the thing. Bitcoin's volatility is a beautiful thing. Us being volatile is not a beautiful thing. Bitcoin has price volatility because it has principal stability. If we can approach Bitcoin with principal stability, with financial peace, with financial stability, then what we're going to be able to do is capitalize on Bitcoin's volatility. What do I mean by this? There are a great number of times where I've seen myself and other people freaked out about Bitcoin crashing. At least that's what they say. At least that's what it seems. At least that's what they're thinking to themselves. At least that's what they are accused of by themselves in the mirror and by everyone else. They're freaked out about Bitcoin crashing. They're not freaked out about Bitcoin crashing. They're freaked out about not having enough money to pay rent. They're not freaked out about Bitcoin crashing. They're freaked out about whether or not Bitcoin is true. They're not freaked out about Bitcoin crashing. They're freaked out about something else, and them being freaked out about something else, they impose on Bitcoin. And they say, I'm freaked out about Bitcoin crashing. No, you're not. Because if you had stability in your own life, if you had financial peace, financial stability, you had savings, you had low or minimal or no debt, you had high income, you would be able to view Bitcoin in the same way that investors view Bitcoin, which is as an incredibly volatile asset that, because of its volatility, which, by the way, is not a bug, it is a feature, you're able to get incredible entries. The kind of entries that you can get on Bitcoin are remarkable. But what you have to do is you have to say, okay, Bitcoin's going to do the volatility. I got to bring the stability. I got to have emergency fund. I got to have low debt. I got to have low expenses. I have to be frugal. I have to have high income. I have to be... if you want a seat at the table, by God, you got to earn it. If you want a seat at this table with Bitcoin, you got to earn it. You have to have the peace to be able to stick your neck out there, knowing full well you might get your dang head chopped off, because you are going to be able to hold. The reason that people sell the bottom is not because they're freaked out about Bitcoin crashing. The reason they sell the bottom is because for one reason or another, maybe it's that they don't have savings, maybe it's that somebody is getting injured, maybe it's that they invested more than they were willing to lose. Maybe it's that they have not done the research, or they invested in Bitcoin when they don't believe in it, which I tell people to never do. If you don't believe in Bitcoin, don't flip and buy it. The reason that people sell at the bottom instead of buying at the bottom is because something in their soul, in their spirit, in their financial well-being is out of whack, which is why we teach you the financial sovereignty way. Have savings, minimize or eliminate debt, live on less than you make, have a written plan for your money, give your money to God, so that when Bitcoin does inevitably go through corrections like we're going through right now, which, by the way, may not be over. All three of these charts might need to revert back to baseline so they can bounce. So that when and if we get down here, you don't see it as a reason to sell, but you see it as a reason to buy. If you needed a reason to subscribe to the channel, there's your reason. I am here to help you be a confident investor. The entire reason I'm here. It's the whole reason I'm here. General Dictator said, love you, Jeb, no homo. No homo, love you back. Am I wearing velvet? I have no idea what this is made of. It's very nice. I like this shirt. I think my wife got this for me. Queen Finsaw said, I love the game. You gotta love the game. You gotta love the game. You have to love the game. You have to love the game. Hey, by the way, listen, we talked about minimizing expenses. It's very important that we minimize the expense of taxes. I hate taxes. Now, see, there are two ways to minimize taxes. Either you cannot pay them and go to jail. Would not recommend. I would very much not recommend that. Or two, what you can do is you can minimize them through a ton of different tax-advantaged accounts. See, the thing is that I don't like about taxes is that is something that people don't understand. People don't understand that taxes are optional to some degree. To some degree. Somebody's going to clip that. Taxes are not, you'll go to jail if you don't pay them. But what I can say, you can get out of paying them legally. The tax code benefits business owners. It benefits investors. It also benefits people that just do 5 minutes of research. And one of the ways you can avoid paying taxes is that you can invest in Roth IRAs. You can invest in 401ks. You can invest in traditional IRAs. You can invest in all of these different tax-advantaged accounts. And one of the best tax-advantaged accounts that you should invest in is a Roth IRA through iTrust Capital. If you have not already, you should absolutely sign up for iTrust Capital and invest in a Roth IRA so that you can invest in Bitcoin in a tax-deferred way. A lot of people like to buy Bitcoin in brokerage accounts, or they like to buy it on the exchanges because they want instant liquidity to it. I actually think that Bitcoin is one of the best assets to put in a Roth IRA because of how freaking volatile Bitcoin is. You can buy Bitcoin and be down 3 years later, but if you had to just waited 10 years, you'd be up 500, 1,000%. Bitcoin's volatility lends itself to extremely long-term investing, which means that investing in Bitcoin through iTrust Capital is a match made in heaven because you have the single largest IRA provider in the cryptocurrency space helping you to invest in Bitcoin in a tax-advantaged account. If you've not already signed up for iTrust Capital, you absolutely should. When you sign up for us, you're going to get a sign up. When you sign up through us, you're going to get a big sign-up bonus. Links for that are in the description box down below, and you're going to get access to the #1 IRA provider in the cryptocurrency space where you can buy spot cryptocurrency assets, not just Bitcoin, all the other cryptocurrencies. There's hundreds of them. Very minimal fees. Your assets are secure. They're a regulated custodian, and they have a very, very helpful software and customer service team. When you sign up, you will have a direct phone number to not just the company, but to a member of iTrust Capital's team in, I think it's in Anaheim, California. I know they're in California. I think they're in Anaheim, where they speak English. You can understand them. No offense to people that have the accents, but it's helpful if you can understand what people are saying, right? Where you will get access to somebody who is in the United States to walk you through and help you with whatever you need. They could not possibly be providing more value for what this is. So if you have not already, sign up for iTrust Capital with the link in the description box down below. You're going to be benefiting the channel. You're going to be benefiting yourself. And I really appreciate all of you guys for doing that. Let's read a little bit of chat, and then we're going to wrap it out here. We're coming up on an hour very quickly. Sign up for NordVPN and iTrust Capital with the links in the description box down below. We ran out of time, didn't get to talk about Jerome Powell, but essentially this is the first time, I'll say like 30 seconds on this. This is the first time that Jay Powell has actually addressed publicly what he thinks Trump is doing. He thinks that Trump is threatening him and threatening the independence of the Fed. If you want to watch the video, here's a video. Hindustan Times has it. Bunch of other places that you can find this video. Powell's desperate video plea. Fed chair warns DOJ threatening criminal charges to force lower rates. Big part of the reason why I kind of triage this story down to the bottom of the list is because we actually have seen the market open, and it had very little impact on the market like a lot of people thought it would. Oops. Huh. It's so dark in here. It's so dark in here. Where'd my beloved charts go? Where'd they go? Anyway, sorry. So, yes. That's why we didn't get to go over that. But essentially, he's saying that the Trump administration is trying to threaten the independence of the Fed. That seems to be exactly what they're doing. I've never been a big fan of Fed independence. I've never been a big fan of the Fed in the first place. But anyway, feel free to check that out. If we have time, then we'll look at that tomorrow. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. All taxation is theft. Mostly agree. But yeah, anyway, I appreciate all of you being here. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for more content. Video will be coming out very soon on the channel, so make sure you watch out for that. And before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.